Hello, everyone. Is talent the most important thing to succeed in life? Most of us were raised on this idea, and we're always fascinated by people who have natural talent and seem to do things effortlessly. But what if I told you there's something else that's exponentially more important than talent? This is exactly what researcher Angela Duckworth proves in her life-changing book, Grit: The Power of Passion and Perseverance. In this video, we're going to discover exactly what grit is, a combination of passion and perseverance over the long term. We'll see how this one quality separates the people who achieve their biggest goals from those who give up halfway through. Stay with me to learn the secrets of this superpower and how you can build it in your own life step by step. Introduction: Deconstructing achievement, a paradigm shift from talent to effort. In the landscape of modern psychology and self-improvement, few concepts have captured the public imagination as powerfully as grit. Popularized by psychologist Angela Duckworth in her seminal book, Grit: The Power of Passion and Perseverance, the theory presents a direct challenge to the pervasive societal belief in innate talent as the primary driver of success. Duckworth's work confronts what she terms a naturalness bias, our tendency to admire and value achievements that seem effortless over those born from struggle and hard work. The book's central thesis posits that in the marathon of life, a specific combination of passion and perseverance is a far more reliable predictor of high achievement than raw talent alone. The origins of this theory are rooted in both Duckworth's personal and professional experiences. She recounts her own story as the daughter of a scientist who often noted her lack of genius, a sentiment that fueled her later research into the true nature of success. This personal narrative was reinforced by her professional observations as a middle school math teacher in New York City. There, she witnessed firsthand that her most successful students were not always those with the highest IQ scores. Rather, they were the ones who demonstrated exceptional determination and resilience. This realization prompted her to leave teaching and pursue a career in psychology, specifically to investigate the roles of motivation and character in achievement. This report provides a comprehensive analysis of Duckworth's work. It begins by deconstructing the anatomy of grit, defining its core components and theoretical framework. It then explores the two primary pathways for its development: cultivation from the inside out through psychological assets, and from the outside in through environmental influence. Subsequently, the report reviews the empirical evidence that forms the backbone of the theory, followed by a rigorous critical examination of its limitations, controversies, and the significant debates it has sparked. The analysis concludes with a balanced synthesis, offering a nuanced and actionable understanding of the power and the peril of grit. Part 1. The Anatomy of Grit: A New Psychology of Achievement. At its core, grit proposes a new framework for understanding the psychology of success. It moves beyond simplistic notions of hard work to define a specific two-dimensional construct and explains its mechanics through a clear theoretical model of achievement and goal orientation. 1.1. Defining the construct: more than just hard work. Duckworth formally defines grit as a unique combination of two essential components: passion and perseverance. It is the synergy of these two elements that distinguishes grit from related concepts like diligence or resilience. Passion, within this framework, is not a fleeting enthusiasm or momentary intensity. It is an enduring, loyal, and steady commitment to a single, long-term, top-level goal. Duckworth emphasizes that this is akin to staying in love with the pursuit, maintaining interest and dedication over years rather than just falling in love with a new idea or project. This consistency of interest is the directional component of grit, providing the what and why behind sustained effort. Perseverance is the stamina and tenacity to stick with that long-term goal, day in and day out. It encompasses the hard work, resilience in the face of failure,
and the determination to keep moving forward despite setbacks, challenges, and frustrating plateaus in progress. This is the action-oriented component of grit, famously summarized by Duckworth's maxim that gritty individuals live life like it's a marathon, not a sprint.
1.2 The Achievement Formula: Why Effort Counts Twice. To dismantle the cultural fixation on talent, Duckworth introduces a simple yet profound two-part theory of achievement. This model mathematically illustrates why effort is paramount. The first equation is talent times effort equals skill. This formula posits that talent is not skill itself, but rather the rate at which a person's skill improves when they apply effort. Without the application of effort, talent remains nothing more than unmet potential. An individual may have a natural aptitude for music, but only through the effort of practice do they develop the tangible skill of playing an instrument. The second equation builds upon the first. Skill times effort equals achievement. This demonstrates that the skills one has acquired only become productive achievements when effort is applied once again. A skilled musician only achieves a great performance or composition by expending further effort to play, rehearse, and create. This conceptual framework is designed to shift our focus away from fixed innate attributes and toward a variable that is entirely within our control. By factoring into the equation twice, effort is shown to be doubly important relative to talent in the journey towards outstanding achievement. This reframing is psychologically empowering, as it grants individuals agency over their potential for success. 1.3 The Hierarchy of Goals: The Power of an Ultimate Concern. Gritty individuals are distinguished by a coherent and aligned goal structure, which Duckworth visualizes as a hierarchy. This structure provides both direction and motivation for their long-term pursuits. Low-level goals. At the bottom of the hierarchy are concrete, specific, and short-term objectives. These are the daily or weekly to-do list items, such as finish this chapter or run 5 miles today. These goals are means to an end. Mid-level goals. These are broader objectives that give purpose to the low-level goals. Examples might include earn a degree or win a championship. They are more significant than daily tasks, but still serve a higher purpose. Top-level goal: ultimate concern. At the apex of the hierarchy is a single, abstract, and deeply meaningful goal that organizes and gives purpose to all the goals beneath it. This ultimate concern acts as an inner compass, guiding decisions and providing a reason for the daily grind. For a physician, this might be to heal the sick. For an artist, it might be to create beauty. A lack of grit can often be traced to a disorganized or conflicting goal hierarchy. Critically, gritty people demonstrate steadfast commitment to their top-level goal, but are often flexible and willing to abandon or modify lower-level goals that prove ineffective or no longer serve the ultimate concern. This adaptability allows them to navigate obstacles without losing sight of their overarching passion.
1.4 Grit in the Psychological Landscape: Distinguishing Related Traits. A common point of confusion, and later a basis for scientific critique, is the overlap between grit and other well-established psychological traits. Clarifying these distinctions is essential to understanding Duckworth's specific contribution. While related, grit is conceptually distinct from self-control, resilience, and the broader personality trait of conscientiousness. Trait. Definition. Timescale. Core challenge.
Key distinction. Grit. Passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Years, decades. Sticking with a single, high-level ultimate concern despite setbacks and boredom. Focuses on the sustained pursuit of a singular, dominant, and passionate goal. Self-control. The regulation of attention, emotion, and behavior in the face of momentary temptations. Minutes, hours. Resisting a lower value, immediately gratifying impulse in favor of a higher value, deferred one. Applies to aligning actions with any valued goal, not necessarily a single, long-term passion. Resilience. The process of adapting well and bouncing back in the face of adversity, trauma, or significant stress. Situational. Overcoming a specific setback or period of adversity. Defined as a process of recovery, whereas grit is a trait of sustained pursuit over time. Conscientiousness. A broad, Big Five personality trait encompassing diligence, orderliness, self-discipline, and dutifulness. General. Being organized, responsible, and hardworking across various contexts. A broad personality dimension. Grit is argued to be a more specific facet focused on long-term passion and perseverance. Part 2. Cultivating Grit from the Inside Out, the 4 Psychological Assets. Duckworth argues that grit is not a fixed trait, it can be grown. The book's second part is dedicated to the 4 psychological assets that individuals can cultivate internally to develop their own passion and perseverance. These assets represent a developmental sequence, offering a patient and realistic roadmap for personal growth. One does not simply decide to have a purpose. Rather, purpose emerges from the cultivation of interest and the discipline of practice, all sustained by hope. 2.1. Interest, the spark of passion. The foundation of grit is a genuine intrinsic interest in what you do. Duckworth strongly refutes the myth of the epiphany, the romantic notion that passions are discovered in a single, dramatic moment of insight. Her interviews with paragons of grit revealed a different story. Interests are first triggered by interactions with the outside world, and then must be actively developed over time. This process begins with a discovery phase, which often involves playful exploration and goofing around with different activities without the pressure of a lifelong commitment. Duckworth encourages young people to sample a wide variety of potential interests, recognizing that it is impossible to know what will capture one's attention without experimentation. Following this initial spark, a longer development phase is required. This involves sustained engagement with the activity, as well as crucial encouragement and support from parents, teachers, and mentors, which helps deepen the initial curiosity into an enduring interest.
2.2. Practice, the engine of skill. Once an interest is established, skill must be built through practice. However, not all practice is created equal. Drawing heavily on the research of psychologist Anders Ericsson, Duckworth emphasizes that it is the quality, not just the quantity of practice, that leads to mastery. Gritty individuals engage in what is known as deliberate practice. This is a specific and systematic form of training that involves 4 key components. A clearly defined stretch goal, targeting a specific, narrow aspect of performance that is just beyond one's current ability. Full concentration and effort, engaging with undivided attention and pushing oneself to the limit. Immediate and informative feedback,
seeking out information on performance to identify errors and areas for improvement. Repetition with reflection and refinement. Continuously repeating the process, reflecting on feedback, and making subtle adjustments. Deliberate practice is often strenuous, repetitive, and not inherently enjoyable, as it is focused on systematically eliminating weaknesses. This distinguishes it from the state of flow, a concept from Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, describing a state of effortless immersion that occurs when applying already mastered skills. Experts use the toil of deliberate practice to build their skills, which then allows them to experience flow during peak performance. 2.3. Purpose, the compass of passion. For passion to be truly enduring, it must mature beyond self-centered interest and connect to a larger purpose. Duckworth defines purpose as the intention to contribute to the well-being of others. This sense of purpose is a powerful motivator that provides a profound reason for the arduous work of deliberate practice. For most paragons of grit, the journey begins with a self-oriented interest that over many years of practice and development evolves into a desire to serve others. This is often reflected in how one views their work. Duckworth distinguishes between a job, a necessity for income, a career, a path for personal advancement, and a calling, work that is an integral part of one's life and contributes to the greater good. Gritty people are far more likely to see their work as a calling, which fuels their long-term commitment. 2.4. Hope, the fuel of perseverance. Hope is the psychological asset that sustains grit through the inevitable struggles and failures. In this context, hope is not passive optimism or wishful thinking. It is the resilient belief that our own efforts can improve our future. It is the conviction that we can overcome challenges and that setbacks are not permanent. This concept is inextricably linked to Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset, the belief that abilities and intelligence are not fixed but can be developed through dedication and hard work. A growth mindset is the foundation of gritty hope, because it reframes failure as a learning opportunity rather than a final verdict on one's capability. When individuals believe they can improve, they are more likely to persevere. Cultivating this kind of hope involves actively challenging pessimistic thoughts and practicing optimistic self-talk, turning "I failed" into "I learned what not to do." Part 3. Forging grit from the outside in, the power of environment. While the 4 psychological assets can be cultivated internally, Duckworth emphasizes that grit is not a purely individualistic trait. It is profoundly shaped and supported by external factors, including parents, mentors, peers, and the broader culture. This section explores how environments can be structured to foster grit, highlighting a critical feedback loop. External support enables the difficult internal work of developing grit, and the resulting individual growth reinforces the value of that supportive environment. 3.1. Parenting for grit, the wise parenting framework. Duckworth uses the term parenting broadly to encompass the nurturing role of teachers, coaches, mentors, and leaders. The most effective approach for cultivating grit is what she terms wise parenting, a style that is simultaneously highly supportive and highly demanding. A supportive parent is warm, loving, and respectful, providing a foundation of psychological safety. A demanding parent holds high standards, encourages challenges, and does not excuse a lack of effort. It is the combination of these two dimensions that fosters resilience and perseverance. A practical tool for implementing this philosophy is the hard thing rule, a set of principles for families to practice grit together. Everyone in the family must do a hard thing. This is an activity that requires daily deliberate practice to improve a skill. You get to pick your own hard thing. This ensures that the activity is rooted in intrinsic interest, which is crucial for sustained passion. You cannot quit until a natural stopping point. This could be the end of a sports season, the end of a semester of lessons, or when a tuition payment runs out. The key is that you cannot quit on a bad day or simply because you are frustrated, teaching the lesson of follow-through. 2.2. The playing fields of grit: extracurriculars and follow-through. Extracurriculars serve as a prime training ground for grit. Unlike many academic classes, which can feel challenging but uninteresting, or social time, which is interesting but not challenging, extracurriculars often provide the ideal blend of both. Research has shown that sustained commitment to an extracurricular activity, sticking with it for more than a year, is a remarkably strong predictor of long-term adult success, more so than many traditional academic metrics. This follow-through teaches the invaluable lesson of persevering through periods of boredom, difficulty, and slow progress, which is central to the nature of grit.
Part 5. A critical examination of the grit doctrine. The widespread popularity of grit has been met with significant and valid criticism from academics, educators, and social commentators. An expert analysis requires moving beyond exposition to engage with these controversies, which challenge the theory's originality, its application, and its underlying social implications. The core tension arises when the book's descriptive account of high achievers is translated into a universal, prescriptive remedy for all. 5.1. The socio-economic critique. Is it grit or privilege? The most prominent critique of the grit narrative is that it can function as a form of blaming the victim. By emphasizing individual character as the key to success, a focus on grit can divert attention from profound systemic inequalities, such as poverty, structural racism, and lack of access to resources. The argument is that telling a child from a disadvantaged background that they simply need to be, quote, grittier, places an unfair burden on them while absolving society of its responsibility to create just and equitable conditions for success. Expanding on this, some critics reframe grit not as a virtue to be cultivated, but as a polished survival mechanism or trauma response in disguise. From this perspective, the perseverance observed in individuals who have faced significant hardship may not stem from passion, but from necessity, hypervigilance, and a disassociation from suffering. To then celebrate this grit as a character strength is to engage in moral gaslighting, glorifying the endurance required to survive systemic failure, rather than interrogating the failure itself. 5.2. The motivational critique. Is grit the cause or the effect? A second major line of criticism challenges the causal direction of Duckworth's model. Scholars such as Joel Mehta and Pietra Wozniak argue that the theory presents an impoverished view of human motivation. They contend that people do not persevere for the sake of persevering. They persevere because they have found something deeply meaningful, engaging, and worthy of their investment. In this alternative view, passion is the true driver, and grit is its natural consequence. When an individual is genuinely captivated by a pursuit, the willingness to endure hardship and practice diligently follows. The implications for parents and educators, then, is that their primary focus should be on creating rich, engaging environments that allow interests and passions to emerge, rather than on trying to train grit in the absence of authentic motivation. 5.3. The psychological and methodological critique. The concept of grit has also faced scrutiny within the field of psychology on methodological and theoretical grounds. Overlap with conscientiousness. A significant body of research, including a major meta-analysis, has found that grit is extremely highly correlated with conscientiousness, one of the well-established Big Five personality traits, with correlations reported as high as R.84. This has led critics to argue that grit is not a novel construct, but is largely redundant with
or simply a rebranding of conscientiousness. Weak predictive power. While Duckworth's initial studies showed strong effects, some subsequent larger-scale studies have found that grit's incremental predictive validity for outcomes like academic achievement is weak once factors like IQ and conscientiousness are statistically controlled. Limitations of the grit scale. Duckworth herself acknowledges that her self-report grit scale has serious limitations. It is susceptible to faking, as respondents can easily present themselves in a more favorable light. It is also subject to reference bias, where individuals from different backgrounds or with different standards judge their own behavior differently. For these reasons, she has cautioned that the scale is inappropriate for high-stakes purposes like selecting employees or admitting students to college, even though it has been widely adopted for such uses. Conclusion: synthesizing grit, a balanced perspective on passion and perseverance. Angela Duckworth's Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance offers a powerful and compelling narrative that has rightly shifted public and scientific conversation toward the importance of non-cognitive factors in achievement. Its core message, that sustained, passionate effort toward long-term goals is a critical ingredient for success, is both intuitive and inspiring. The framework of growing grit from the inside out via the psychological assets of interest, practice, purpose, and hope, and from the outside in through wise parenting and supportive cultures, provides a valuable roadmap for personal and collective development. However, a mature and responsible understanding of grit requires a direct engagement with its significant limitations and valid criticisms. The concept is most powerful and least problematic when viewed as a description of a quality found in high achievers, often in well-resourced environments. Its danger lies in its oversimplification and misapplication as a universal prescription, particularly when used to explain away the challenges faced by those contending with systemic barriers. The critiques concerning its overlap with conscientiousness, its potential to blame the victim, and its impoverished view of motivation are not trivial. They highlight the necessity of context. Ultimately, grit is not a panacea that can overcome all obstacles, nor is it the sole determinant of success. The principles it champions, however, remain undeniably valuable. Fostering a growth mindset, engaging in the discipline of deliberate practice, discovering interests, and connecting one's work to a larger purpose are fundamental components of a successful and fulfilling life. The final verdict is that the power of grit lies not in its prescription as a standalone virtue, but in its integration into a more holistic model of human flourishing, one that equally values passion, perseverance, opportunity, and the creation of just, engaging, and supportive environments for all. The following table offers a balanced framework for applying the book's lessons, integrating Duckworth's core strategies with the critical considerations raised by her detractors. Principle: Duckworth's core strategy. Critical consideration. The nuance. Develop interest. Sample widely, then deepen. Encourage exploration of various activities to find what sparks joy, then provide support for development. Focus on creating engaging, authentic opportunities first. Passion cannot be forced or trained in a vacuum. It must be genuinely discovered and nurtured. Engage in practice. Use deliberate practice. Focus on systematically improving weaknesses through effortful, focused training with feedback. Ensure practice is connected to a meaningful purpose to avoid burnout. Grueling effort without a why is unsustainable and can be counterproductive. Foster hope. Adopt a growth mindset. Teach the belief that abilities can be developed through effort, reframing failure as a learning opportunity. Acknowledge that mindset is shaped by real-world experiences. Exhortations to have a growth mindset ring hollow if an individual's efforts consistently meet with failure due to external barriers. Build supportive environments. Apply the hard thing rule and create cultures of grit. Use a wise parenting approach that is both demanding and supportive. Balance high expectations with authentic support and actively work to remove external barriers. Pushing for individual grit without addressing systemic challenges is ineffective and unjust.
So, the key takeaway from the book Grit is that real success in life isn't a question of how much talent do you have, but rather how much passion and perseverance do you have for a long-term goal that you truly care about. Always remember the formula for success. Talent without effort is just unmet potential, but effort is what turns that talent into skill, and it's what turns that skill into achievement. Effort counts twice. And my question for you today is, what is the hard thing that you're working on right now that represents your passion and perseverance? Share your goals in the comments below so we can all motivate each other. If you liked this video and felt to give you some motivation, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you'll always get the latest on self-development books. Thanks so much for watching and keep going in your marathon. See you in the next one.